everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today I'm excited to get started on block number 2 of the Kimberbell Main Street Celebration bench pillow / wall hanging project that we're working on. Remember last week we did block number 1. Here it is here, cute tree with the felt, the bicycle, and the rocket and the fireworks, and this awesome quilting in the background. So this week we're going to work on block number 2. But what I'm going to have you do is we're not going to do block 2 as it is in the instructions. We're skipping around a little bit because I want to build up your skill level from what I perceive as the easier blocks. And then we're going to work our way up to a little bit more complex blocks, which the one I see the most is the fire station. So we're not going to do the fire station next like there is in the instructions. We're going to work up to that. So today we're going to be doing the next tree block. And this tree block is really cool. It has a swing on it and we'll eventually have the little quilt attached to it via like a little rope. So that's the block we're going to do today. Also, hang in there because toward the end I have a little surprise. We're going to also do a little embellishment block at the end as well. So you will definitely want to stay tuned. So the first thing that we're going to do to prep for today is we're going to put some no-show mesh in our hoop. Now with this block, this one here, we used a 8 by 12 hoop. Okay, this is one of what they call one of the thinner blocks. Today's block is a little bit wider. It's going to come out to be roughly an 8 by 10 block. So you have to switch to a larger hoop. The hoop I'm using here is my 9.5 by 14 hoop, which comes on the Dream Machine. Okay. And I had to go and get a slightly wider roll of no-show mesh. If you don't have a wider roll of poly no-show mesh, you could hoop 2 sideways and have it overlap in the middle so that makes sure that the whole area is covered and is tight. Preferably a larger roll, larger piece to fit would be nice, but if you don't, again, you can have one piece coming across here and then a second piece there and then have them overlap in the middle so that you have complete coverage. So let's go ahead and let's hoop this up. Undo the frame a little bit there, a little bit more. There we go. I want to show you how this is done. So I've got the no-show mesh centered. I put down the top frame and I'm going to press that frame in. Okay, all the way around. It's nice and tight, but what I want to do, I just want to pull just a hair. I'm not pulling a lot. I'm pulling just a small amount to take out if there's any gap on the side. I don't want to pull it too tight because then it's going to cause puckering issues on the back. So I tighten my frame. See a little wrinkle on this side. Okay, I want to loosen that up just a smidge. Pull that just a smidgen. Get that out. Tighten my frame up so that the top frame can't come out, and it's like a drum, and that's what you want. You want it to be like a drum. You don't want it to be loosey-goosey, but you don't want it to be too tight either that it causes problems. So we are good. So we're going to now take this over to the machine. I'll meet you over there and we'll start stitching. Okay, we are now at the machine. The block that we're going to be making today is on page 26 of the Kimberbell instructions. It's called the Swing and Quilt block. It's the cute block that has the tree and the tire swing, and will eventually have that quilt attached to the tree. So page 26 of the instructions. So the first thing that we're going to do is we need to add the designs to our machine so that we can stitch them out. So we're going to select Embroidery. We're going to go to the flash drive because that's where I have the files. And we're going to go to the Main Street folder. And the first thing that we have to add before we can add the designs, we have to add the quilting, the background first. So I'm going to go to my quilting subfolder. Last time we used a 6 by 10. Okay, that was a slightly thinner block. This block is a wider block. So we need to select the 8 by 10 background. 8 by 10. Bring that up. There's the fireworks. Everything looks great. I don't need to do anything to it. Click Set. All right, now we're going to add a design. Again, if you can't add, that's okay. You're going to stitch this design out first, and then you're going to close it out and then go back in and bring up the tree design. But if you're able to add, then this step is where we're going to click Add. I'm going to go back to the flash drive. I'm going to go back to Main Street. And now I'm going to select this design right over here that has the tire swinging from the tree. And there we go. And again, I don't need to adjust it. I don't need to move it. Don't need to do anything to it. So we're going to click Set. Looks good. So you see the quilting background behind, and then you see the tree with a swing on top of it. So we are good to go. We're going to click Embroidery. All right. So the first stitch that it's going to do is it's going to do a placement stitch. You can see this window up here. It's going to do a placement stitch for the batting. So let's switch over to the machine. So the first thing now we're going to do is we're going to slide the hoop onto the machine. This is a big hoop too. Okay, there we go. And it is centered, so we're ready to stitch. I've gone ahead and put a ivory, like a pale yellow thread in there. So we're ready to stitch out the placement line for the batting. Just gotta, as a friendly reminder, make sure you have everything out of the way when you use one of these big hoops, because it goes way in the front and way in the back. All right, looking good. Okay, so now I'm going to lay the batting down. Make sure that it's around on each side, that it covers the stitching up there, covers the stitching down here, and we got room on the sides. Okay, if you're new, I highly recommend using tape to put this down. If you're experienced, do what I do, but make sure that you keep your hands away from the needle. Okay, we're ready to go. Now it's going to tack this batting down. Again, like I mentioned in block 1, if it shifts a little bit and it puckers, you just stop the machine, take your stitches out, and straighten out the batting and go back to stitching. Easy to fix. It's not worth putting your fingers very close to the needle. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Oops, just like that. See? Just exactly what I just said. So I'm going to stop the machine, and I'm going to take this out, fix it, and we'll be right back. See, there is my wrinkled little batting that I need to fix. Not a problem. We're just going to take this out. All the way down. Just like this. Like I said, you can always fix stuff. This stuff happens. No embroidery session is without little hiccups. The trick is to know how to fix the hiccups so they're not any big of a deal. Okay, so that'll be good. And then it can just stitch back along. The trick is it got a little mushy there on the corner. Not a problem. All right, let's go back to the machine. Okay, so now we're back at the machine. Hoop is back on there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards on my stitches. So let me go to the screen and show you how to do that. So down here, you see a plus and minus stitch count. Okay, so now I'm just going to go -10. I'm going to go backwards in time, all the way down. To where I want to restart. Okay, so where that's going to be is I'm actually going to start back over on this side because I want it to redo that line and then go up. So that's how you get the machine to go backwards. All right, so we are ready to continue stitching. And here we go. Going to go up. There we go. Got a little thread, no big deal. And it's going to go around again to make sure that it's got that down tight. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this over to the table and we're going to trim all the way around the sides of the batting onto that stitch line. So I will meet you over at the table. Okay, we're at the table and now we're going to trim just outside this stitch line all the way around the block. And there we are. So we're right up against that. So basically the bulk is out of the seam area because when we go to put these together, we don't want to have any bulk in that seam area. So now we are all ready to go back and stitch again. Meet you back at the machine. Okay, so now it's going to put a placement line down as to where we want to put the fabric. So I've switched to blue thread, which is fine because I'm going to put blue fabric on top of it. So let's stitch that placement line out. So now we're going to lay down the blue fabric, covering that placement line. Okay. And again, my fabric's a little close because I cut mine prior to knowing that I was going to do the quilting background, but it should just cover it here. So let's go ahead and stitch that down. And mine's missing the edge just a little bit. That's okay, like I said, because I'm going to be doing the quilting stitches, and that's going to tack the fabric down anyway. and I will have plenty of fabric for when I stitch it together. So that's how you make things do sometimes when you make little mistakes like that. But like I said, it's real close, and when I do the quilting background, it's going to tack everything down anyway. So we're going to be all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the thread, and we're going to put in that awesome variegated thread that we used last time. A lot of people have asked me questions on Facebook as to where I got this awesome variegated thread. So let me show you here. It's from Thread Art. It's 100% polyester embroidery thread, and it's color number 2. It's called Patriotic on threadart.com. And I really like it because it gives that fairly quick color change. So let me change the thread, and I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we are ready to stitch out the quilting background in variegated red, white, and blue fireworks. Sit back and enjoy the stitch out. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love this. Where's my latch? Okay, so I'm going to unlatch it and bring it forward just a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that pretty? Okay, and again, don't worry about this down here. People's like, oh no, wait, it missed it. It's going to be okay because this number 1 stitched it down and is holding it. And when we stitch it in the block, there's a 1/4 of an inch here. This part of this design gets covered up anyway, and you'll see it clear when we get to the tree line. You'll see exactly how much room we have on the bottom. So some of this is going to get cut off, and then the other 1/4 inch is going to get stitched into the piece itself. So this is okay. This is okay. All right? Isn't that pretty? Okay, so we're ready for the next step. Let me show you on the monitor where that is. Now this is showing that the next step is a fold down placement line for the fabric. This is one of the 2 steps that we skipped in block 1. Guess what? We get to skip it again because we've already put that down when we did this quilting design. So we're going to go forward 1 step. And this was another secure for the blue fabric, which we did. So we're going to skip that again. So we skip those 2 steps and it takes us right to the tree. So I'm going to switch my thread out to a golden brown and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've got the machine threaded with the golden brown. Let's switch back to this view. And now we're going to stitch out the tree. And the tree is done. Yay, that looks good. All right, so now we're going to switch threads and we're going to put in an olivine green or an olive green. And we're going to stitch the placement line for the leaves. Be right back. Okay, green thread is in and let's stitch out the placement lines for the leaves. This is where we're going to put the felt. Okay, so it's finished the placement lines. Now it's ready to stitch down the green felt. This is the green felt that we used last time. So what I'm trying to do, again, I did not pre-cut this. I'm trying to maximize what I can get out of it. I'm looking to use this section here. And let's see if I flip it over. This is where the tree was last time. So I'm hoping to do the same thing over here. And then that should leave me this for next time. Now, don't panic if we don't have enough. Kimberbell does sell the embroidery felt. It comes in a little tube. So you can buy more of this felt from Kimberbell, just in case you don't have enough. So I'm going to go ahead and put this side over here. I want to cover all the placement lines. Take a peek. That definitely covers over there. And a little bit more on this side. So that covers all those. And that's going to cover that. Again, tape it down or just hold it off to the side. Felt this fairly well. So let's stitch out the leaves. Felt that doesn't really move that much once it gets going. It has a little sticky nature to it. There we go. So let's watch the stitch out of the leaves. Perfect. All right. So now we're going to take this off the machine and we're going to go over to a table and we're going to trim this. You definitely want to be on a flat surface. I know it's really tempting to do it on your lap. I've done it for a while and it works ever so long until one time the hoop pops off and then you have to start all over. So just take it to a flat surface. If you have a tabletop lap unit that you can put in your lap that's flat, you can do that, but as long as it's on a flat surface, it's the best way to trim out your things. So I prefer a flat table, so I'm going to go over the table and I'll show you just a teeny bit, and then we'll fast forward through trimming all these leaves. All right. Okay. So now let's trim some of these leaves up. That looks good. All right, let's go back to the machine. Okay, we're back at the machine. I'm going to put the hoop back on. Okay, let's show you the screen. The next step we're going to do is we're going to work on this tire right here, this swinging tire. So the first thing it's going to do is a placement line for the tire. So I've put black thread in the machine and we're going to stitch the placement line. Here we go. That's the inside of the tire. And now the outside. Okay, so now you go to your embellishment kit and you pull out the piece of black leather. It's really soft black leather. That's the back side. That's the top side. And we're now going to put it over that placement line, making sure that on all sides we have enough. Peek one more time. Always double check. Sometimes check 3 times. All right. So now we're going to stitch down the leather. That's so cool. All right. See, so by not cutting a big square like they wanted you to do, I was able to still position it over here and maximize the amount of black leather I have left over. It's just a little tweaking. I don't want to put it right on the edge, but I want to put enough that I have plenty to grab and to cut. It's not going to go off the edge, but then I might have some black left over later, so if I wanted to do another block with this one with the tire, I could. Okay, so now I'm going to take this back over to the machine and cut out that tire. Okay, so now we're going to cut out the tire. Okay, so that looks good. So we have a tire. All right, so let's take it back to the machine. Okay, now we're back at the machine. I placed the hoop back on. And the next step is going to be a stitch out of the tire treads on the black leather. So I've switched my thread out to kind of a dark silvery gray. Not black, but definitely a shade lighter in the dark gray. So let's stitch this out. that's going to look good. That looks real good. Happy with that. Okay. So now it wants it's a rope for the tire swing. Okay, so I'm going to do a gold like they show. I like that contrast of the gold on the blue. So let me switch my thread out and we'll stitch the gold rope. Okay, I've got gold thread in the machine, and let's stitch out the rope. I'm excited to see this. This will be cool. Nice looking rope. Okay. All right. So, show you that rope a little bit up close. Isn't that nice? Nice rope. Okay. So now what it wants to do is it's going to do a rocket fuse. It's time for the rocket. So I need to switch to red thread for the rocket. So be back in a second. Okay. Here we go with the red rocket fuse. Very short rocket fuse. Okay, so now we need to do the rocket spark detail, which it wants white. So we're going to switch the thread to white. Okay, here we go with white thread for the little tip of the rocket spark. Okay, so now we're going to do the rocket body placement line. Okay, so switch threads. Let's see, I'm doing a red rocket body, so I want red thread. Be right back. Okay, just a reminder, this is where I change myself up a little bit from the instructions. On the instructions, they do a white body. I want to live it up with a little bit more glitter, so I'm doing a red body. So that's why it's a little bit different than your instructions, but you can do whatever your heart desires. So let's do red on this one for the red rocket body. Wasn't that fast? Okay, so now here comes the fun part. Now we're going to put down some more of this red glitter. Now, mind you, in step 1, we already peeled off the plastic on this. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure you've peeled off that plastic top before you stitch this down. So let's see, where's the rocket body? It's going this direction. So I'm going to give it that much room and take it all the way up. Again, line it up so it's got plenty of room on this side. And then I'm going to move it up so it's got ample room. I'm going to hold it down on this side because I know it's just going to stitch that little spot. So I'm going to hold it gently in place. Isn't that cool? Oh, I love it. Okay, so now I'm going to go trim this red glitter, and then the next step will be the rocket tip. So let's go trim this red. Rocket body. Okay, let's go back to the machine and do the tip. Okay, we're back. The rocket body's trimmed, and now we're going to stitch out the rocket tip. So in my version, I'm doing a white tip. So I'm going to put white thread down. If you're following the book and you're doing a white rocket body with a red tip, you're going to put in the red thread at this point. Okay, so let's stitch down the placement line as to where we want to put the rocket tip. All right. Okay, so now we're going to put down the white glitter, and let's just see, I just want to put it right there. Again, make sure I've got plenty of space for it. Put down and stitch, holding again away from the needle. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the table and trim this rocket tip. Okay, so now we're going to trim the white rockets. All right. There we have a rocket tip. Now we go back to the machine. Okay, now we got the rocket done. So the next stitch out is going to be the red fireworks. So I put red thread in the machine, and let's stitch out the red fireworks. Okay. Okay, so the next is going to be white fireworks. So I need white thread. Okay, so white thread in. Let's stitch out the white fireworks. Nice. Okay, so the next step is the gold fireworks. I'm going to put gold thread in the machine. Okay, so gold fireworks. So the next step and the last step for this block are the little blue eyelet holes. So I want to switch to a matching blue thread, the same color as your background fabric here, because we want those to blend in. We don't want those to stand out. So let me switch to blue thread. Okay, let's stitch out the blue eyelets. It's done. All right. Doesn't that look awesome? All right, so let's take this out a little bit to show you a little bit closer. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? See, we're going to have plenty of room down here because this is where basically the base is going to go of the quilt. So we have plenty of room that we're going to turn away, so that's not an issue. Rockets, fireworks, and the little eyelets are in place. So cool. All right, so this is the end of block 2, but it's not the end of the video. Surprise! Yeah, what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you a diagram. It's a rough sketch diagram of what this wall hanging that I'm envisioning is going to be and how these blocks are going to line up. Now, this is also where your artistic license is going to come into play because you can place the blocks any way you want. If you're doing a pillow, you'll probably line them up exactly the way they show in the picture, but you can change them up a little bit. There's nothing that says that you can't. And put them, put the general store and next to the farmhouse and then the, fire station on the other side. There's nothing to say that you can't change things up. But for this wall hanging, you could do it in the same layout and do 7 blocks and just do a flat wall hanging. Or I've envisioned a 9-block wall hanging. So we're going to switch to the other table and I'm going to show you this layout of what I've envisioned. The borders are still to come, but this is a basic layout of what blocks I'm going to need to make this wall hanging. So if you want to do the same, this will give you a guideline. So let's go to the table. Here is the layout that I've come up with for my wall hanging. As you can see, there's a total of 9 blocks. I have 3 blocks on each row. You can arrange this in any order you like. The only thing you need to pay attention to is each row across needs to have 2 large blocks, or the wider blocks, and 1 of the small, thinner blocks. That way it will space itself out nice and even. So 2 large blocks on a row and a small block on that row. Any order. That way it will be the same width when you're done. So what I've done is I've doubled up on the swing tree. And remember we added the pink balloons. Okay. And that same block is going to be down here with the quilt. Then I'm also going to double up on the windmill. I need 2 small ones. And I think that would look really cute, having one by the fire station and then one over here on the left by the quilt. So that is my layout. The yellow is the larger, wider blocks, and the blue are the thinner blocks. Then I've designed a 1.5 inch border. So basically cut 2-inch strip. It'll be a 1.5 inch border. And then over here, I'm going to have a 4-inch border. And these I'm going to quilt as well with the Kimberbell quilting background. So it's going to be really pretty. Now, I like these little cornerstones up here. I want them to be a little longer, but because of Excel, I couldn't really show them to you. So when we get there, I'll show you the layout a little bit more. I just want these to come down a little bit longer on each side. So it's more of like a picture frame type look. Isn't that cool? So that's for your reference. If you'd like to do it as a wall hanging, that's one potential layout that you can use for your blocks. Okay, so based on that layout, I've chosen that this block, I'm going to make 2 of them. Because each row is going to have a tree. So the top row has a tree, the middle row has a tree, and the bottom row has a tree. So I'm going to make 1 more of this block. And then I'm going to show you a little surprise and how to change it up a little bit. Okay, so now for the little treat I want to show you on this second tree block. What I want to do is I want to merge one of the elements from another block onto this tree so that this block here that you're seeing here is really cute. It has the tire swing, the tree, and everything. And then over here is where the cording's going to go and where that quilt is going to connect between the tree and the farmhouse that's going to be the next block over. Well, I don't want to do that for the second block as well. If I'm going to have 2 of these trees, I don't want 2 identical because this is a bigger block. So I'm going to take this block and I'm going to merge it, at least merge with an element from another block. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to go to Embroidery and I'm going to start the same process that we did for this block, and I'm going to bring in the quilting background for this block. Okay, so I go to quilting and I'm going to bring in that 8x10. Okay, so this is the background for the next block. Set. Okay, so now I'm going to add, and I'm going to go back to the USB, and I'm going to bring in Main Street, and I'm going to bring in the same block we just did, the one with the tire swing. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to set it. It's good the way it is. Okay, now here's the difference. I'm going to add another block. I'm going to add, go back to the USB, go back to Main Street, and the component I want to add to this block is a bicycle. So I'm going to pull in that block that we did last week with the bike, and I'm going to click set. And you're like right now going, whoa, you can't do that. You got a bike on top of a tree. Right. So we're going to change it. We're going to move it. The trick is I want the background. I want this tree with a swing. And then I want that bike over here. So to get that, we're going to click on Edit. And now we have to tell it which block we want to edit. So down here, there's select left and right buttons. If you hit it once to the right, it moves to the outer block. Select it again, it's going to the second block. Select it again, it's going to the block with the bike. If you try to click on here to select it, you can, but it's very difficult to hit the right one. So I like to use these arrows down here because then I can hit the right block. So now I'm going to click up here, move. And over here to the right, I'm going to go for the right arrow. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to move this bicycle straight over to somewhere around here. I don't want to move it up. I don't want to move it down. If it went up, then the bicycle is literally not going to be on the ground level. See where this tree is? That's where this whole design is based on. That's like the ground level. If it goes below, it's going to get tied up in the seam allowance, and the sewing area. Okay. There we go. It's going to get tied up in that sewing area. So we don't want to go down here. All I want to do is move it over to the right. And you see that as I push down, it's moving that bike over to the right. And I want it right about there. Isn't that cool? So it's moved the bike directly over. I will be on that ground level. I didn't go up, I didn't go down. And I've moved it so that, you see over here, you've got plenty of place for the trimming and the seam allowance. I've got plenty over here as well. Then what I want to do is add more balloons to this block. In doing so, I'll be able to have the balloons flying up here. This tree is not going to get stitched out. Pretend that tree is not there. The balloons can be flying up here like on the back of the bicycle in the breeze. It'll all be fun. And I still have plenty of room over here for the seam allowance. So I think that's a good position for the bike. So I see the question that you're going to ask right now. You're going to say, wait a minute, there's a second tree in there. There's more fireworks. Don't worry about that, because I'm going to walk you through when we get to that point stitch out. I'm going to stitch everything here for you. When we get to that point, I'll show you which stitches you're going to skip, just to focus on that bike. That's all we want, is that bicycle. We don't want the tree. We don't want the fireworks. We don't want any of that. So once we've finished with the quilting and this block all the way through the little eyelets, then I will stop and I will walk you through the steps to skip and how to skip all these other steps just to get to that bike. Isn't that going to be cute? All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward you, and you can watch through the stitch out of the second block all the way to that bike, and then we'll be back. So sit back and relax. little tip on the green felt, because we're inching a third block out of this piece, and they really only allowed for 2, but because of our technique of not cutting it, will be enough to get 3. So what I'm using is I'm using this piece here, and I'm going to cover all of this bottom. It's going to cover all of that. It's going to cover all of this, and I'm going to stop the machine when it gets lined up with the top of the tree up here. And then I'm going to put another piece down to cover over here. So this piece will cover all of that. Let's stitch this out. Put it back in. All right, here we go. Let me show you a little trick. If you have this on your machine, you can actually watch here where it's stitching. So right now I've done these leaves and it's on this leaf. So I can see on the screen where it's going to go. Now that I'm good with this leaf, and this leaf, then it's going to go up this way. So you can watch with that little crosshair where you are on the screen. That helps a lot. Okay, so I trimmed all that out, trimmed the excess. So now I'm going to put this piece down, and this piece is going to cover everything except those 2 last leaves. Okay, so make sure it's going to cover that one. It's going to cover those. And it's going to cover those, and then I just have to worry about those last 2. Okay, so there, triple check, it's going to cover all that, and it's going to come down and cover that, and then I'll put one more piece on those last 2. Okay, so now we just have to put a piece on those last 2. Again, whoops, let's press the foot. It'll tell you if something's wrong. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, that's fine. Just order another piece. It actually comes in a pretty big piece from Kimberbell. She has all the different colors, and it comes in a tube. And you have plenty of time. By the time this project comes around to finishing, you've got plenty of time to get that tube if you feel more comfortable with doing that. So I'm going to trim that off, and then I have a piece I can put right there to stitch out these last 2. Actually, it's kind of close, so I'm just going to overlap it. Okay. And now we're going to stitch out the last 2 leaves. Use the stylus just right there on the end just to keep it in place. Felt usually doesn't move too much, so and stitch out the last 2 leaves. And we had just enough felt. Just enough. Okay. So now I want to show you a little boo-boo that happened when I was trimming, and this may happen to you. When you're trimming, because it's raw edge applique, there's not going to be a stitch that goes around the edge of this. So basically you trim as close as you can without hitting the stitches. Every once in a while you mess up and you hit a stitch. So this leaf here I've taken back out, and this leaf here I've taken back out because I cut too close and it popped open on one edge. So all we have to do is go to the machine, and I'm going to go back to the stitch. And how do I do that? I'm going to go back to the stitch that I need to do with these buttons. So in this case, I'm going to go back 10 because at least 10, I'm jumping pretty well. That's 3 leaves, 4 leaves, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that 12th is the first one. So, okay, now I want to go forward. That's the start of the first leaf that I missed. So if I go back to the dream, you can see now I'm back to this first leaf. And I'm on the attach stitch. So I can just put down a piece of felt that's going to cover that. Either use tape or use your stylus. And I'm going to redo that leaf. This does happen. So this way you'll know how to fix it. Okay, there's the first one. And I'm going to stop the machine because I don't need to do any more. Put the foot up, and now I'm going to advance the machine over to this leaf right here. So I'm going to go forward 10. See me jumping. Okay. There's another one and another one. And right there. So I'll go back. So it's on the old leaf, or the, sorry, not old leaf, the leaf in front of it. And then I'm going to go forward. There. That's the start of that leaf. And now I'm just easy going to snip some of this off. And I can very easily put that piece down. Use the stylus, making sure I am out of the way. And go ahead and stitch that other leaf down. Just like that. And that's how you repair a boo-boo. Just in case, oh, stop that. Just in case you cut too close to the stitches and accidentally cut a stitch. It's easy. Just take out the applique piece that you had, go back in the machine, move it back to where that start of that section is, put new product down, and stitch it over again. Let me go trim this up and I'll be right back. Okay, leaves are all fixed. All right, so now we're ready for the next step. But what we're going to do on the machine first is we're still on the leaves. We need to move forward a step. So right here, I'm going to go forward. That will take me to the tire. And the reason we had to do that is because we fixed the leaves that we made a mistake on. So now we go forward a step, and now we're back in place to do the placement stitch for the tires. once in a while this will happen too, where it looks like it didn't quite start properly, but then it took off. So I want to redo that. And depending on the look, I can either redo just that section or I can redo the whole thing. And I might redo the whole thing because with tire tread, it's going to look great. So I'm going to go back a stitch and then I'm going to re-stitch that part. I think I'll do the whole thing. There we go. It doesn't hurt sometimes to do the whole thing as long as it's not adding too much dimension to the to that section, and then you get one continuous look. That looks great. Okay. Let me go trim this up and I'll be right back. And poof, just like that, we have finished the second block. Isn't that cool? All right, so now I'm going to show you the trick of the bicycle. Okay, so let's go back to the main screen. There we go. You see that all right? Okay, so now it's automatically jumped to the next step in the process, which it is now working on this block with the bike and the tree. But we don't need to do all these steps. So this is the placement guideline for the blue fabric. We don't need that. We're going to skip it. So we're going to go down one. This is the placement for the blue fabric. We're going to skip that. Go down. We don't need another tree. Skip that. Don't need leaves. Skip that. Don't need that. Second part of leaves. And there's the bike tires. So just like that, we've bypassed all these other pieces that we don't want to duplicate because we don't want two trees. But now we're right at the point to start with the bike. So let's stitch out the bike. See how easy that was? Wasn't that hard at all. Okay, so my thread is in. Let's go back to the main screen. And now we're going to watch it move over for the bike tires. See that? Perfect. All right. So now the computer is telling me that the next step is the fireworks, but I don't want to do that. All I was doing this additional block for was the bicycle. So we are done with this block. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. I love it. You can make the bike any color you want. Personalize it. That's awesome. Look at that. So this is the second block for the wall hanging. Now, stay tuned a few more minutes and I have a little surprise for you coming up next. Be right back. So, are you ready for the surprise? Today, we are also going to make the balloons that will go on this block we just finished with the pink bike and the block we did last week. So, you guys ready? All right, so we need to clear this design out of the system because we're done with this. So I'm going to click the home button up in the upper right. Okay, to delete the selected pattern, select OK. Okay, so now we're going to pull up the design. We're going to click on Embroidery. We're going to go to the USB flash drive. We're going to click on Main Street. And there's the design we're looking for. It shows us a 4x4 with 3 balloons. So we're going to select that. Isn't that cute? Okay, so what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to show you in the Kimberbell embellishment kit the piece of mylar that you get. This is a piece of iridescent mylar. this is just enough to make one set. This is not enough to make two. So if you're just doing the pillow and you're only doing the original 7 blocks, you're fine. You have enough. If you decide to do the wall hanging, you need some additional mylar. Okay, this is iridescent. It's just enough for one. So hopefully you have some at home. If you don't, I actually have been selling some on my Etsy website. I'll put the link down at the bottom of the page below. And I have 2 different sets. I have a set that gives you really pretty red and pink and lavender and purple and orange. It's a set of 6 sheets, so you'll get 2 red in that set. And the other set are what I call the basics. It's going to be green, silver, copper, gold, and black. And yeah, I believe you get 2 of the gold in that set. And I was thinking about this morning. And I thought, you know what? I just got some blue mylar in. So I am going to make a special set for us. If you're interested, you can go to my Etsy site below. And I'm going to make a set of red, silver, and blue. Because that's what I think I want to do with this. I don't think I'm going to use their iridescent. I'm going to use all metallic. This is going to be really pretty. All right, I found a blue mylar. This is not in the kit. This just came in this last week. But I think this is going to be so cool. You got to see the silver. Kind of harbored the glare there from the lights. But basically what this is going to do is this is going to be a red, silver, and blue balloon set. Is this not amazing? Oh my gosh, I'm in love. Okay, so what I'll do, in case you want to do this and you don't have these at home, I will make a set of 2 red sheets, 2 silver sheets, and 2 blue sheets for the $4.99. So you still get the 6 sheets, but there'll be 2 of each of these colors in it. So if you are in the need of mylar, I think this would be a really cool choice. It's like a really cool blue. It's not a royal blue. It's a medium blue. And of course the silver is a silver, pure silver metallic. And the red is like a patriotic or Christmas red. That is so cool. The sheets are 9 by 10. So you will have oodles of projects come out of these. But you'll get 2 sheets of each color in the set. That is going to look great. Oh, I'm so excited. I just got this blue in. So let's see how this looks. Okay, meet you back at that machine. So in the set, let me actually go to the Dream camera and I can show you the mylar. This is going to be so pretty. This is the blue. Look at that. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to do this. I can't stand it. Okay. That's the blue. That is the silver metallic. And then that is the red. So that's what I think I'm going to do the balloons in. So if you're interested, I will make a special set on Etsy for us. But I'll put that link below just in case you're interested. If you have old balloons at home that haven't been blown up and inflated yet, you can use those as well. Just take them apart and use them. Or hopefully you have some other mylar around the house for the second set. Because you will need more if you're going to do 2 of these blocks for the wall hanging. All right. So we'll put that aside. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to make a hoop with wash away stabilizer. This is stabilizer that literally when we're all done, we're going to go through, I'll walk you through the instructions how to wash it away. This will dissolve and will disappear, which will leave these designs really light and airy. You're just going to see the cross through, but it's going to be just the mylar. Okay. So also the balloons are going to sit up kind of on the block. So you're going to see both the front and the back. So you don't want like a poly no-show mesh on the back because you're going to see it. This will just show you kind of like a translucent balloon if you're using iridescent, or you'll be able to see the metallics on both sides if you're using a solid metallic. Now, if you're doing just one set of these, if you're doing the pillow, you can use a 4x4 hoop and hoop your wash-away stabilizer in your 4x4. If you're going to switch it up and do a wall hanging and you want to do 2 of these blocks, then I suggest hoop a 5x7. And I'm going to walk you through how to stitch 2 sets of these in the same hoop, maximizing the amount of stabilizer that you are using. So you're not wasting 2 4x4 hoops. You're only doing it once. And we can double it up. And I'll walk you through that step. But if you're only going to do the pillow, you only need 1 of these blocks, just hoop a 4x4. Okay? 4x4 hoop. All right, so we're going to put that in. Okay, and we're going to go back to the computer. And actually, Dream Machine computer. And then we're going to click set because we're ready with this design. We don't have to change anything at that point. Okay, see how small this is? All right, so I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to move it. And I'm going to move it straight up because I want to make room down here for a second set. So I'm going to move it up. That should be perfect. Okay, so I click OK. Now I'm going to add the second design down here. You could probably do more than 2. I only need 2. So I'm only going to do 2 at this time, but you could probably do more. Go Main Street and pull up the balloons again. And there they are. And click set. And it brought them in. Now that's too close. So we're going to edit. And I'm going to move. And I'm going to scoochy that one down. It's my little term, scooch. Scoochy. Let's do right there. So we've got some distance between them. So there won't be an issue there. That looks great. So now we're going to click OK. And that's how you add 2 sets of balloons so we can stitch it in a 5x7 in one shot. So now let's click Embroidery. Okay, now we're going to get ready to stitch. There's one other shortcut I want to show you. Because of the fact that we have duplicated this design. Right now, if you look at the colors, it's changing colors every single time. All right, which means it's like right now it's going to do a, it's going to do a placement line. And then when it gets down, let me show you. We're going to go through the placement lines. It's going to stitch this balloon. And then it's going to move to this one. So it's going to go red, white, and blue. And then we got to go back and do red, white, and blue. All right, because as we stitch this, it's going to be seen on both sides. So we're going to have to change the top thread and the bobbin thread to match for each step. So you see here, this one was red. The bobbin thread's got to be red, and the top thread has got to be red. So you will have to spin a bobbin of each of these colors that you're using in advance before we start this. So you need, if you're doing red, white, and blue, you need a red bobbin, a blue bobbin, and the white you already have because it's basic embroidery, bobbin thread. But there's a trick to change this. So what I want to do is I only want to stitch the reds at the same time. I want to stitch the whites at the same time, and I want to stitch the blues at the same time. I don't want to have to go back and forth and change the bobbin and change the top and then change the bobbin and change the top. So if we go back out, click OK on that, you see how the colors are all here. Actually, let me go back to the first step, which is that one. Let's click OK. So you see it starts there. Now, I'm going to click Edit. And we're going to change the way that the machine does the colors. This button right here is 3 threads. If you click on that and then click Edit, look what it's done. It has rearranged the colors. So it is now going to jump from the placement, stitch down. Okay, stitch down is the same. Then it's going to go red. And it's going to go to the second red. And then it's going to go to white. And it's going to go to the second white. So you're not flipping your bobbin and your top threads multiple times, you're going to do all the white at once. And then blue. And then blue, all the blue at once. Isn't that a cool trick? So this is the button that you're looking at. See, right now I just changed it back to the original sort. And this changes it to the color sort. So if your machine has that capability on it, that is a wonderful time saver. You don't have to switch your bobbin thread and your top thread for every single step. Okay, now we're ready to go. So I put white in first, and it's going to stitch these placement lines, telling us where we're going to put our mylar. So let's go back to the dream. Let's go back to the dream. And let's stitch out the placement line. Okay, so if you're following along in the instructions, we are actually on page 38 in the Kimberbell instruction book. And what they're asking us to do now is to place the organza, then the iridescent mylar, and a layer on of organza after that. So they want this piece of glitter organza. They want that first one, if you're doing this, to go glitter side down. I'm just going to show you on this one here. And then the iridescent mylar on top of that. It likes to stick to me. And then you'd cut this and put that on top of that. Okay. That gives a very pretty look. If you're using the iridescent and you're doing one set, that's pretty, okay? So you could do that. You would definitely have to cut this in half, and then that would go over the top of that. All right, but since I'm not using the iridescent, I'm using a solid color metallic mylar. I'm not going to use that organza at this point. I'll save it for something else. But that's what they have you do in the instructions. So you can do that step. Again, it was organza face down, iridescent on top, and then organza on top of that. Okay, so if you're going to do the solid metallic, then what it wants to do is it's going to stitch the silver one. I'm going to do the silver one first. Let me show you. It's going to stitch this one first. Then it's going to go to the top, which the computer shows blue. Actually, this is a little better. Here you go. It's going to stitch the white one first, then it's going to stitch the blue, then it's going to stitch the red. So what I would do is take your mylar. The first one's going to be silver. What I would do is take your mylar, and the piece is rather big. We don't need that big of a piece. So I will go ahead on this one and just cut a square out of it that's big enough to cover the balloon, because we don't need the whole piece. Okay, so there's a square that's big enough to cover that balloon. Okay, so we're going to stitch that down first. This one you could definitely use tape on, unless you're confident on this, and I'm just going to hold it with this, but mylar is kind of, I may have to go get tape. No, we're good. It kind of likes to move, but if I hold it with the stylus until it gets started, it'll be fine. Oh, isn't that pretty? It's a small area to tape too. So if you're going to tape, definitely use a tape that's made for embroidery that you can easily peel off around the stitches and won't gum up your machine. Okay, so that's the first one, and I stopped it because now it's going to want to go to the second piece. So I'm going to put the foot up. I'm going to take this out. And make sure I'm a little close, so I'm just going to trim a little bit of the silver mylar away. There we go. Okay. Okay, so the next piece at once is blue. Here's the pretty blue mylar. Again, I'm going to cut a little square off the mylar because I don't need the whole thing. Try to keep it from getting too wrinkled. Alright, so now we got the blue. Let's turn this around a little bit. There we go, we got the blue. Okay, so we're going to put down on that. Let's move it a little bit more this way and start stitching. Hold it with the stylus. There's also a purple tool called the Purple Bang. That helps hold it down too. Okay, there we go with the blue. And stop it. Okay, put up. I'm going to come back here. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Okay, so now I'm going to trim a little bit of the way of the blue flat on my table. Just so it doesn't overlap and it would be a little easier to trim later on. Okay, now we're going to go for the red. Pretty. I didn't think about this solid metallic until last night. It was like, wait a minute. That would look so cool on this. I love the iridescent and the organza too, but I was just like, ooh. Just like I love glitter, I love metallics. So I'm going to put this on top of this one. My arm in the way there. Okay, put down and stitch. There we go. Isn't that cool? Stop it. Foot up. Now we're going to do the same thing on the second set. Okay, so we're going to grab another silver first. Okay. Grab another small square. Okay. I'm going to put the silver down. Put down, stitch and hold it. Okay, when it's done, you're going to stop it. Stop it. Okay, then I don't have to trim anything on this one. Okay, so I'm going to grab the blue, another small square. Okay, put up, grab the blue, put down, and stitch. Definitely don't put your fingers near this thing. Got it. Okay, and then I'm going to stop it once it's done. Stop. And guess what we're going to do now? We're going to do red. Okay. This is going to be so pretty. Okay. A little piece of red. Right there. Grab the stylus. And go. Okay. Isn't that cool? And if it gets a little crinkly, not a big deal because it's going to do a cross hatch on the top of it. So I'm not worried about that. It'll just give it kind of a poofy look too. Oops, can't see it. There. Isn't that cool? Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the table and I'm going to trim these, because the next thing the machine is going to want to do is going to want to do an outside edge on this. So I definitely want to trim close, but I don't want to cut the threads. Okay, I will trim this. See you at the table. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Okay, so I have wound a bobbin for my red to match my red balloon, and then I wound a partial bobbin for my blue. Now I did a full bobbin on my red because I use red on a lot of other things, so I know I will use that up. This blue I may not use more of, so I did a quarter of a bobbin, and that should take care of the two balloons. If it didn't for some reason, I can always wind more, but that way I'm not winding a full bobbin of a color that I may not use as often as what I would use a red. So now that we've done that, I'm going to put this in the top, this in the bottom, and we're going to stitch out our first red balloon. Okay, I've got red bobbin thread and red thread on the top, and we are ready to stitch out. Foot down, and let's see what this does. Very cool. Oh, I love that. I think this is going to start a new addiction with Mylar. Totally. Okay, now it's going down and doing the second red. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. Stop. Okay, we're going to change things up for a second here. The Dream is doing a good combination of matching the colors of the thread. But what I noticed is that it didn't go and do the outline stitch on the red balloon. It jumped to the white. So if you look at here, it is merging the colors right, but it's going to come back down here and do red. So I'm going to teach you how to skip around. Okay, you can see a little bit better. All right. So what I want to do is, now that it's on the white up here, I'm going to go forward a few stitches until it gets to the red. Now don't get confused. It'll be really easy to come back. So I'm going to do a plus in my stitch. You see it's on the white. I'm just going to go forward. Forward. Okay, blue. And I'm going to skip the blue. I want red. Outline of the blue. There's the outline of the red. So I'm going to stitch this one and this one first. Then I'm going to teach you to go back and do the white. Luckily, it's color coordinated. So right now we're focusing on red. So it's easy to look on the machine and say, okay, I need to do all the red stitches first. It did combine the stitches originally from here to here, but it didn't merge this final satin stitch outline up at that same step. And that may be how it was digitized. So we're just going to make it work. So right now, without changing the thread, I'm going to stitch this one out and then the next stitch down here. Then I'll show you how to go back to where we were for the white. Just focus on right now we're doing red. So whatever color you're chosen, that's what we're doing. We're doing red. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the Dream. There we go. And I'm going to put the foot down. And it automatically jumped back to the red. Isn't that great? A little bit of freedom there. That way we don't have to change the thread and the bobbin thread. I don't mind changing the top, but the bottom gets to be kind of a pain in the tushy when you keep having to flip it each and every stitch. So we're going to try to make it easy on ourselves. Agreed? Agreed. There we go. That looks really, really good. I love the look of the solid metallic. That is really cool. Don't get me wrong, the glitter organza and the iridescent's pretty too. I'm all for that, and I'll do balloons on that on a different block. But this is really looking good. And you gotta play with stuff. You gotta try something different because you never know how it's going to turn out. Just like this. Okay, perfect. And it's going to stop. Okay, now let's go back to the Dream screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in time. Back before the red one. Back before that one we did. Okay, back before the blue. I'm looking for white. There's the first white. There's the second white. So that's the one I want because that's going to be the one at the top. It does this one first. And then it does this one second. So now I'm going to switch and put white thread in the top, white bobbin thread in the bottom, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm changing this up a little bit. I just realized I'm not doing a white balloon. I'm doing a silver balloon. So instead of putting white in the bobbin and the top, I'm putting silver. So a little change of plans there, but I looked at the balloon and went, uh-oh, we need silver thread. So let's stitch this out. Much better looking. Well, it'll still look good with white, but silver's much better. Okay, so it should jump to the second one, and it does. Okay. Isn't that fun? That is so fun. That is so fun. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the screen. I want to fast forward now to do that satin stitch around the white on the screen, all on my silver. So I'm going to fast forward, blue, nope, blue outline. The red one we already did, red's done. There it is, this is the one we want. So now it's going to do the first one and then go down to the second one. See how easy that is to skip around? It is a lot of fun. It makes life a lot easier. So let's go ahead and stitch that out. Perfect. Okay. Oh, we're not done yet. That just happened to be the last stitch on that cycle. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the dream screen, and I want to go forward because it thought I was done. It put me back at the top. Red's done, white's done. There's the blue. That's the last balloon. So now I'm going to put blue thread in the top and the bottom, and I'll be right back. Okay, blue is in the top, blue is in the bottom, and now we are ready to stitch out this last balloon. Okay, and the way that this now has worked out, the next stitch is the blue satin stitch. So we are ready just to continue on doing that. Those are so cute. Look at that. Can't really see its pull back. Look at that. Aren't those cute? I love the way they turned out with the solid. Just love it. Okay, so now that it's on, it's all stitched out, and they are on wash away stabilizer, we need to go ahead and close this out. This design is all done. So we can just hit home and clear it out. We're good. We're good on that. So let's go back to this. Okay, now that we have this all stitched out, and it's all pretty, I am going to take you over to the other table. Our next step is to cut around the excess of the stabilizer off. We're going to cut around about 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch off from the balloons. And then we're going to dissolve the stabilizer for 20 seconds in cool water. And then I usually allow it to dry overnight. But it only needs about 20 seconds in the cool water to dissolve. So let's go over to the table and do that. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take it out of the hoop. Those are so pretty. I'm in love with that solid metallics. Turned out way, way better than what I thought it would. Don't you love when that happens? When you do something for the first time, you're like, ooh, this is so pretty. Just turns out awesome. Okay, I'm going to trim around, leaving it about 1/8 of an inch or so around, just to basically cut off the excess. You don't have to be perfect. Just cut off the excess of the wash away stabilizer. Just makes it a little bit easier. And the second one. Okay. You could literally do like 4 or 5 sets of these at the same time. Wouldn't that be cool? You could. You could just line them up and do them all in the same hooping. Jump colors like we did. That would be a lot of fun. Okay, so now we have those 2 pieces. Now what I do when I do the wash away stabilizer is I use one of these paper bowls. I think they're Dixie. Get them at Costco, Sam's Club. And I put the cool water in that. You don't want this stabilizer stuff going down your sink. It can eventually clog your sinks. So I just use a little paper bowl, put that in there, take care of it, but don't put this down your sink. Okay, so we're going to put it in there for about 20 seconds and let it dissolve and watch paint dry, right? Yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. Look at this. And it literally just pulls apart. Just pulls right apart. That's the little thread. We'll cut that off. Look at that, but it just dissolves. Coolest thing ever, right? And that's connected there with a little thread. We'll trim those. And we'll trim those up. Rinse it again. Trim those up. Get a little sticky stuff on me. Like it's got some threads. Not a problem because at this point you can see them. And then you very, very carefully trim that up. There we go. Rinse it again. Rinse it again. Okay. Let's do the blue one. Just clean them up a little bit. Isn't that pretty? Rinse it. There's a little bit of stabilizer right there at the corner. Rinse it again. And I can fine tune it as well once it's all dry. I just want to get the bulk of it off so that it there we go. Rinsed. Oh, that's good. A couple more threads there. And again, we'll fine tune it one more time when it's all dried. Just rinse, make sure I got all the stabilizer off. Trim that up a little bit. back looks good. Front looks good. Let that dry. A little bit more. And this way you're not bending over the sink too. Number one, you're not clogging up your sink, but then you're also not bending over the sink. You just sit here and you do it. Make sure you got all the excess stabilizer off there. A dry spot, and one more. Trim her up. I think this is just the coolest thing. Imagine having these little accents on your project. It's just so super cool. I love the attention to detail that comes with Kimberbell. It's really, really awesome. They do a great job. All right, and that's good for now. So we're gonna let those dry. Those cute balloons. Aren't they just cute? We're gonna let them dry. I usually let them dry overnight. Just give them plenty of time to dry. We're not in any hurry. We're not going to be sewing these on until we get to the end, as it is anyway. So that is the project for today. Isn't that awesome? So we did block number 2. We did a second one. In fact, let me go get them. Hang on. Let me show you what we've accomplished so far. This was block 1 from last week. All right. This is what we did today. Yay! And then this is the second one that we did today that has the pink bike. Isn't that adorable? Okay. And I know what you're asking. You're asking, I've got all this extra stabilizer. Can I cut it off? Don't cut it off yet. I'm going to teach you how to trim these blocks up in the next few weeks after we've got the blocks stitched. There's a certain technique, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing it. So for now, leave everything attached. Just put them in a pile, and then I'll teach you how to trim, and then we will trim all the blocks at once. I find it's a lot easier to do it that way. That way your mindset is like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to trim, I'm going to cut. Because you want to be super careful when you cut. And I find if I do a project and I sit down and I cut all my blocks at the same time, I'm in that right frame of mind to cut carefully and properly. So we had a blast this week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We have block 1 and blocks 2 and the spare all completed. I hope you had as much fun doing this block number 2 as what I did. Hope you learned some tricks along the way, moving designs, doing Mylar, using wash-away stabilizer, and moving in your design so that you can change and do different colors at the same time. So I hope those little tricks help you out. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. It's the best way that you can support me. I really, really appreciate that. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below so that I can get back to you. I try to respond to them within a day. And I hope to see you next week here on Jolly Molly TV, where we work on block 3 of the Main Street Celebration pillow/wall hanging. Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye-bye.